Hey YouTube, the other day I had a problem with my backhoe when I was coming up a hill, and it felt like the torque converter was letting go. It wasn't locking up. So I decided to look at some new equipment, and I was looking at this tractor here, and this is a 3-cylinder diesel Ford engine, a 4.4 bore, 4.4 stroke, 201 cubic inch engine. The maximum RPM is 2450. It has a 2200 RPM maximum power, and it's a 56 horsepower tractor. 12 volt heavy duty 32 amp alternator, a transistorized voltage regulator, and the battery is 120 amp hour rating with a negative ground. It has headlights, rear work lights, and an instrument lights. So this machine has turn signal indicators and flashing warning lights. It has a throwaway element fuel filter. The brakes are mechanically operated with a wet disc type. You can see the cab is spacious, nice seat belt. The controls are easy to reach. The bucket, the shuttle shifter, the brake pedals. There's a differential lock on the floor, and there's a throttle on the floor as well as on the dash. And the window on the side of the machine opens up for easy access to venting. The transmission is a 4x4 reversing, like I said, with a differential lock. It has a top speed of 19.2 miles an hour. Hydrostatic steering, and the machine weighs 11,400 pounds. The entire length of the machine is 23 feet 4 inches. The maximum height is 11 foot 3 inches, and a turning radius of 31 feet. The hydraulic system is a 2200 psi pump at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, and it has a 24-gallon fuel tank. The loader has a 4-inch digging capacity. That means that when the bucket is level and you put the boom down on the bucket, it'll go down 4 inches into the soil to dig. And it has a 10-foot 9-inch lift capacity. Of 4,700 pounds it'll pick up at full lift height to 13 foot 3 inches. The backhoe has a maximum transport height of 11 foot 3, 14-inch ground clearance at the swing cylinders. A maximum digging depth of this backhoe is 13 feet 8 inches, or the bigger backhoe is 15 feet 4 inches. The digging force at the teeth of the bucket when you're digging is 9,400 pounds digging force. Hey guys, what I just read to you was out of my brochure that I got in 1977 with my Ford backhoe. And the reason that I read this like this is because the other day I thought that the transmission in my backhoe went, because I had blown a hose and I didn't realize that I had lost so much transmission fluid. I had topped it off, but I must not have checked it properly, and when I checked it again it was low and it hadn't been leaking, so apparently it didn't get through the filters and everything once I filled it up before when I first started it. So since then the backhoe was working fine. I put a new filter on it and put new oil in it, and everything's fine. It runs great. 41 years old, 1977, right? Well, when I thought it was broken, I says to my wife, I'm going to start looking for some new machines. In order to replace this backhoe that I have, this 550 backhoe, would cost me somewhere, if I was going to get a new machine with the same capabilities, would cost me somewhere between $75,000 and $120,000 today. Guys, this Ford was made in the USA. All of its parts were made in the USA. FOMOCO, which is the Ford Motor Company stamp, is everywhere on the backhoe. On the transmission, on the rear end, on the motor, on the boom, on the bucket, everywhere. Made by Ford. What I want to know is, what's the big deal with these tractors that Mahindra and those, Mahindra, Ford, John Deere, or not Ford, Mahindra, John Deere, New Holland, Kubota, they talk about the same options that I just mentioned to you. I mean, the cab in this backhoe that I have, yes, it's 41 years old, but it still runs. And it still has all the options that the newer ones have. Maybe not every bell and whistle, you know, and fancy interior upholstery, which it doesn't have. But I've never seen a machine where the interior lights worked after the first 5 years anyway. But all I'm saying is, why waste your money on all that, paying interest on all that bells and whistles, when you could buy something like this for $8,000 or $10,000, put another $5,000 into it and have yourself a machine that really can do some work. 9,000 pound digging force at the teeth. You ain't gonna find no John Deere mini tractor or a small tractor that does that. Even the 310 I don't think is that good. But this tractor that I have is somewhere between a 480 and a 580 case. Yes, you heard me say that right. And that's what it is. And it's two-wheel drive. It's not four-wheel drive. And you can get two-wheel drive versions. I've never had a problem with the backhoe. I've always been able to get out from being stuck. You know, it's just the nature of the beast. It's how you operate it. Once you know how to run the machine, you don't need four-wheel drive as a, you know, and pay for that extra feature. And to pay interest on all those little things that you have in that tractor that you buy now for $30,000, $40,000 and more. I think I saw a tractor $70,000 that doesn't have near the braking force. This has 56 horsepower, yet it lifts 4,700 pounds. You got to start thinking about, you know, saving the planet. Save the planet. Go buy and fix old yellow stuff. Don't be buying new green, blue, and orange stuff. Fix the old stuff up because it's worth it. Have a good one, guys. Wow, look at that. And that's what's out in my yard. 40 years later, still running. Still doing the same work. Hey YouTube. There's a little bit of levity going to be in this video. But this is I had done a little video on my backhoe before, and I don't know what made me think it was an 83, but this is actually a 1977, and this was bought brand new, 1977 Ford 550 backhoe, TLB it's called, which is a tractor loader backhoe. This is basically one of the first years that Ford, maybe not the first year, but that Ford seriously took and integrated the loader with the backhoe, and not just having a tractor, but it actually has a frame. The 4500s that were out before this really didn't have a frame to them. It had subframes that worked off the transmission and the rear end and the motor mounting, but it didn't really have a good frame. But this one had a frame around it and everything. But what happened was a couple weeks ago I broke a hose that was right in here, and it was a sort of transmission cooler line, and I couldn't find the exact hose, so I ended up getting one made, and I had lost a little bit of transmission fluid, and I didn't realize how much fluid I lost. And when I say a little bit, I'm talking about probably 3 gallons. And I had forgotten, believe it or not, where to check the transmission fluid. There's actually 2 places for the transmission, 2 plates, and I'll show them to you. One is right here, and the other one's right there. And yeah, this plate's for the motor, or for the mounting of the cab. But that one back there is for the rear end gearbox. This one over here is for the transmission oil. So I had been checking that one because this one was so covered with dirt I couldn't find it. And I actually thought that that one back there was the one that I used to check. So what happened was, because I checked it and it seemed still full, I figured, okay, maybe I got to spray a full oil out of the thing. I did stop it right away when the hose broke, but Anyway, I found out that what happened was I started driving it and it didn't want to go up a steep hill. It was feeling like the torque converter was going in and out. It wasn't staying in gear. So, you know, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, don't tell me the transmission's going in this thing, because if the transmission goes in something like, my battery went dead again. So anyway, I guess what I'm just trying to say is, you know, there was a time in this country when you could buy something that lasted. And I'd say that 41 years old, this has stood the test of time. It does not have any kind of a fancy, you know, quick change bucket. It takes time to change this bucket and only certain things fit it. But I could adapt it if I wanted to. I'm not interested in that. If I need a set of forks made, I just put them over the bucket. You can buy other things for it. A grapple would be nice on this thing, and as far as grabbing trees, makes it easier. But I've learned to use it the way it is, without changing stuff, without having all the easy things. And as far as getting in and out of the cab, the other day I saw something where, you know, a guy said, well, I don't have to get in and out of the cab to hook up a chain. Is it that hard? I mean, is it that difficult to stop the machine, put it in park, you know, lock the emergency brake, get out of it, throw a chain on the bucket and put the chain onto something else? There was a time when getting out of the machine was a relief after you've run them for 8 hours a day. So I don't see things that way. I'm the kind of person where, hey, I'm going to take what was to me ingenuity in 1977. It was a new thing out, and I think Ford nailed it for their first try at it. You know, maybe not first try, but for, you know, an industrial machine. So I'm happy with what I have here, and I am so glad that the transmission didn't give me grief, that it was only a matter of changing the filter and topping it off. So